Hello, 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 and welcome to Sundays with Sonya. My apologies. I know I was a few minutes late, but I am in the process of negotiating an offer for a client and literally just got a counter back from the seller's agent. So I was on the phone talking to um, my buyers and discussing our counter offer back. So thank you for your patience. I appreciate you waiting on me. So it's been a month or so since we were together on a Sunday, and a lot has happened since the last time I was live. My son got married out in California, so I am officially a mother in love now. So that's exciting. I also completed a designation with NAR, so I am officially a senior real estate expert. My niche, I've always loved working with first-time home buyers. I have a education background, corporate trainer, and I have a love for teaching. So first-time home buyers have been my niche because I feel like they need someone that is willing to hold their hand and walk them through the process. And my love of teaching and guiding people also has led me to get that senior designation because our senior community, 55 plus community, which I'll be honest, I took a little offense at the age limit on that because I'm 56 and I don't necessarily feel like a senior, but that's neither here nor there. That's my own personal problem. But I feel like our senior community, it definitely needs someone that is willing to walk this process with them from a place of compassion and heart of a teacher. And so I got that designation because oftentimes it's sad to say, but our culture does not always value our senior citizens, and that age bracket is most likely the age bracket to be scammed or taken advantage of. So I wanted to be able to be a resource in the marketplace for that age group, that they can come to and know that they have someone that is going to operate with integrity for them, someone who is going to go to bat for them, someone who is going to hear them, because that can be such an emotional process. Oftentimes they're having to sell a home that they've lived in for a long time, so many memories. And I could go down a long rabbit hole on that, off on a tangent. So, and I'm not, so I'm going to stop because that's not what we're here to talk about today. But I just wanted to share a couple things that have happened since we last were together on a Sunday afternoon. So, and I hope your Sunday, your weekend has been a great weekend. Hope you've had some fun, enjoyed family, tried to stay cool for those of us that are weathering these scorching 90 plus degree days. So, but all right. Let's talk about what we're here for, new construction tips. So just some things that I wanted to talk about. New construction sales are at a high, and that's because we are still in an inventory crisis. So most places across the country, there is a housing inventory shortage. So we are seeing that new construction and, builders are, sales are really booming there because that's really where people are being forced to go. So I wanted to talk to you today and just give you some tips, some things to think about before you go out to a new construction site on your own, and then also talk about just a few incentives that I have seen some of the builders offering. So without further ado, and I've got some notes here because I need to stay on track. So number one, the on-site agent is not your agent. They are supposed to be friendly and make you feel extremely comfortable, but just know they work solely for the builder and they have the builder's best interest at heart. So that is number one. Number two, The on-site agent is not the seller. The builder is actually the seller. The on-site agent cannot promise you anything or do anything for you that is outside of the written contract or anything that the builder has not agreed to do. So if there is something that you have discussed with the on-site agent, you want to be sure that there is an amendment placed in your contract stating whatever that is. Secondly, or thirdly, the on-site agent is always going to encourage you to work with the builder's preferred lender. Most of the incentives that are offered by the builder are contingent upon you closing with their preferred lender. And why is that? Because the lender is in partnership or really in relationship with the builder. The lender is going to tell the builder whether or not you are a well qualified candidate or if you are a barely qualified candidate. Because the builder's goal is to sell the property and they want to work with or be under contract with a buyer that that can close and that there won't be a lot of drama behind it. So the builder is able to get that information from that lender. They're going to know, do you have money saved? They're going to know if you are most likely to be able to close on time, which could even influence whether or not the builder agrees to some of the things that you may ask for. They may be more likely to agree to give some concessions on someone who is more qualified versus someone who is barely qualified. But keep in mind, you do not have to use the builder's preferred lender. And I'm going to always suggest that you talk to another lender so that you are able to compare. Because even though they're giving away some money, it still may not be to your advantage. It may be a higher interest rate. The fees and everything may be high, that really them giving you that extra money doesn't necessarily benefit you at all. So you really want to compare and make sure that you are doing what is best for you. Number 4, always visit a new home community with your real estate agent. A lot of times, most of the times, when you go visit a new construction community, they're going to ask you, are you working with an agent? They're going to want you to register. Because most likely, if you come back with an agent, they're not going to want to let that agent negotiate and represent you. Because when you came out and you asked questions and you looked at the property, you did all of that with the on-site agent. So just always be careful. Now, the builder has already budgeted to pay the buyer's agent, and that's typically what happens. Your agent that is representing you is going to be paid by the builder, and they have money set aside for that. So it's going to always be in your best interest to have an agent that is working for you and representing you, working on your behalf. So don't think that if you go without an agent, because they don't have to pay an agent, they're going to give you a break on the price, or they're going to give you this or that because they don't have to pay an agent. It does not work like that. Always go with your agent, with your representative. If you somehow just end up out there without your agent, when you register, always put your real estate agent's name down on the registration form and tell them that you have an agent. Okay. Also, read the reviews on the builders. And, when we go to restaurants, we read the reviews. When we are going on vacation, we read the reviews on the host and all of that. Read reviews on the builders. I'm not saying this is the end all be all, but what I am saying is that it will give you some insight and may also trigger just some questions for you to ask that you may not have normally thought of. Next is the contract. Most builders have their own contract. I always ask for a copy of the contract before I have my clients sign, or before we go under contract, because I want to read the timelines and the contingencies and know any specifics that contract contains, because there are going to be dates in that contract that certain things must be completed by. There are going to be appraisal contingencies in that contract. There are going to be contingencies or specifics regarding inspectors. So, for example, most builders have requirements for inspectors. So, if you as the buyer, you're getting an outside inspection, which you should, the builder is going to have some requirements that the inspector be a member of a certain board, that the inspector carry a certain amount of liability insurance. And that's important because let's say that inspector finds something, but yet that inspector does not meet the requirements that the builder specified in their contract. The builder may give you pushback about fixing that. And there's some builders who say they don't fix anything unless it's code anyway, but it's still important for you to have that inspection and have that information. So it's really important to know what the contract says. Even with my clients that are not buying new construction, we always sit down and I go over the purchase and sale agreement with them, because I feel like it's really important for you to see this contract and we go over this contract before your emotions have come into play and you're now in love with this house that you want so much that you're willing to sign without reading. So you always want to read the contract. Okay. Next is, when you go out to the location, we want to know what is standard when we go through the model, because the model is gorgeous. So when we go through the model, we want to know what's standard and what's an upgrade, so that we can start wrapping our head around our design visit. Because unless it's a spec home, and what I mean by spec home, meaning that the builder has already determined what's going in that home, the type of cabinets, the type of flooring, the countertops, the light fixtures, all of those things. So in spec homes, as a buyer, you don't get to choose that. That's already been chosen. But if you are going to be able to go to the design center, you want to already have an idea of what is it that I'm going to be looking at when I get there. So what's standard and what is an upgrade is really important. The second thing is, set a budget for going to the design center, because once you get there, you can really start to fall in love with so many of the things that you see. So you want to set a budget. You also want to know, how much would this cost you if you were getting it done outside of the design center? Because oftentimes some of the pricing in the design center is much more expensive than what you would pay if you were just getting it completed on your own. And you don't want to go crazy in the design center, because you don't want to add so much cost to the price point. And some builders are different. You have some builders that are going to require you to pay maybe half of what your upgrades cost, so that you're not adding that full dollar amount to the price, the sales price. So you want to be careful in that, because there have been scenarios where there have been so many upgrades made that it caused a problem with your appraisal. So you always, again, want to have a budget for your upgrades. You want to do some comparison and make sure that you're not paying, $5,000 for a kitchen backsplash when it's something that you could probably have done for $1,800. And you've added it to the price of your home, which also means you're paying interest on it over time. So that's something that you want to always consider. Now let's talk about incentives. Most builders are offering incentives, and I looked at just a few builders, not a lot of them, because most of the incentives kind of fall along the same vein. So one builder I looked at is Brock Built, and they're currently offering $7,500 for you to use any way you want it. You can use it on upgrades. You can use it to buy down the interest rate. You can use it toward closing costs. And again, all contingent upon you using the builder's preferred lender. Next is D.R. Horton. In some cases, D.R. Horton is offering an incentive around interest rates. So interest rate of 4.75% in some of their communities. In other communities, I see them offering a 5.5% interest rate. Now, keep in mind that this again is all based upon using their preferred lender. And D.R. Horton actually has their own mortgage company. And I also saw that D.R. Horton is offering $10,000 toward closing costs as well when you use their preferred lenders. Now, keep in mind with these incentives, the builders can change their incentives whenever they get ready. So this is what I saw today. That does not mean that incentives won't change in the middle of the week or, something like that. So these are just a few incentives that I've seen today when I was doing research. Another builder, Davidson Homes, in some of their communities, they're offering 3% towards closing costs using their preferred lenders. And in other communities, they're actually offering a 2-1 rate buy down. And just for clarity, that means that the interest rate will drop by 2% in the first year. And then in the second year, it drops 1%. And then on the third year, the regular rate kicks in. So that's how a 2-1 interest rate buy down works. So that's what I have as far as some tips for you with new construction and just a few incentives that some of the builders are offering. I don't see any questions currently in the chat. I appreciate you guys hopping on and watching. And I know some of you will catch this on the replay. So if during the replay you have questions about some of the information that I've shared, or you just have questions about new construction in general, don't hesitate to put those questions in the chat, and I will definitely answer those questions for you. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and thank you for tuning in.